I didn't make a scene when she said she wanted to leave. No shouting, no pleading, no questions. I just nodded. It caught her off guard. I think she had probably rehearsed for a fight, maybe even a dramatic apology that would make her look like the calm one. But I just stood there and said, "All right, if that's what you want." Her name was Rachel, and for nearly 3 years, she was my entire rhythm. We met in a coffee shop when I was 28, both of us working late nights, both living on caffeine and half-slept dreams. What started as light teasing over playlists and coffee orders slowly became dinners, movie nights, and the kind of comfort that makes you believe you finally found peace. For a long time, she was my person. Until suddenly, she wasn't. It started small. Canceled plans, colder texts, a strange stiffness in her hugs, the kind of distance you can feel long before anyone says a word. One night, I caught her smiling at her phone longer than usual. I asked who it was, and she said just a friend from work. I didn't argue, but something quiet shifted that night. They say you can sense when someone's already gone. I did. By the time she told me she needed space, I had already accepted it. I didn't pack her things or ask for mine back. I didn't block her, didn't check her socials. I just disappeared from her story the way she had slowly faded from mine. The first few months were strange. I kept expecting her name to light up my phone. Sometimes I'd wake up at 2 a.m., half dreaming that she was still there, that she hadn't left. But reality was quiet, and silence became a habit. I worked longer hours, hit the gym more, started reading again, something I hadn't done since we moved in together. A year passed like that. One quiet, uneventful day after another. Then one afternoon, a mutual friend texted me, "Hey, just thought you should know, Rachel's engaged." I stared at the message for a while, not angry, not shocked, just still. Apparently she was marrying the same friend from work. That night, I poured myself a drink and sat on the balcony, watching the city breathe. For a moment, I tried to imagine her wedding, her smile, her dress, the man beside her. I expected to feel bitterness, maybe some jealousy. Instead, I felt relief. Relief that I hadn't fought for someone who was already leaving. Relief that I didn't lose myself trying to keep her. But life is funny. It doesn't end at closure. It loops. About a year after her engagement, I got a message on Facebook. "Hey, can we talk?" It was her. I didn't respond immediately. It had been almost 2 years since we'd spoken. But something about seeing her name again stirred old echoes. I clicked her profile, and she looked the same, maybe a little tired around the eyes. There were no photos of her husband, no ring in sight. 2 days later, I replied, "Sure, what's up?" She said she wanted to meet, just coffee to catch up. Part of me was curious. Another part warned me not to reopen what had already healed. But curiosity won. And a week later, we met at the same cafe where it all began. When I walked in, she was already there. Same seat, same corner. She smiled when she saw me, that familiar half grin that once melted every defense I had. "Hey," she said softly, "you look different." "I guess time does that," I replied. There was an awkward pause, then small talk. Jobs, mutual friends, the usual script people use to fill silence when truth is too heavy. Finally, she sighed. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left the way I did." I didn't say anything. She kept going. I thought what I had with him was real. It wasn't. It fell apart in less than a year. He cheated on me with someone at work. She looked down, fiddling with her cup. I guess I got what I deserved. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I took a slow sip of coffee, mostly to buy time. Her words hung between us, heavy and familiar. Cheating, regret, betrayal. It was strange hearing them come from her this time. "I'm sorry, Lucas," she said again, quieter this time. I nodded, but didn't rush to forgive. There was a time I would have, when her tears could undo any pain. But that version of me didn't exist anymore. She went on talking, explaining how things just happened, how she had been confused, how she thought she was chasing happiness. Every sentence sounded like something I had once told myself to make sense of her leaving. "I know I hurt you," she whispered. "I just hope you're okay now." That was the part that made me smile, not out of joy, but out of disbelief. Because for the first time, I realized I really was okay. I looked at her, really looked. The woman sitting across from me wasn't the same person I once loved. Or maybe I had just changed so much that the illusion finally broke. "I was hurt," I said finally, "but I'm not anymore." She blinked, maybe expecting something deeper, a doorway back into my life. I didn't offer one. We talked a little longer about the past, about how she'd moved back in with her parents for a while. She told me she'd been thinking a lot about us lately, that she realized I'd always treated her better than she deserved. When I got up to leave, she reached out, her fingers brushing mine. "Maybe we could start over sometime?" she asked, voice trembling just slightly. I paused, looking down at her hand. Once upon a time, I would have grabbed it without thinking. But the silence between us said everything words couldn't. "I think we already ended where we were supposed to," I said. Her eyes glossed with tears. "You really won't even try?" "I did try," I replied, "back when it mattered." I left her there, sitting in that same cafe, surrounded by the ghost of something that used to be love. Walking out into the cool evening air, I felt a peace I hadn't known I was missing. It wasn't the peace that comes from getting someone back. It was the kind that comes from realizing you don't need them anymore. That night, she texted again. "I wish I had understood you better," she wrote. "You were always too calm, too patient. I thought you didn't care." I didn't respond. Some messages don't need answers. They're just echoes of what's already gone. Over the next few months, I saw her name pop up online a few times. Little posts about healing, forgiveness, starting over. I hoped she meant it. I didn't hate her. I just couldn't go back. Life moved on. I moved on. One evening, while I was cleaning up after dinner, I found an old photo of us tucked in a drawer. We were laughing, caught mid-joke, both of us younger and certain that love was simple. I stared at it for a minute before tossing it back into the drawer. Not out of anger, just because it no longer hurt. People talk about closure like it's something you find in one big conversation or dramatic goodbye. But it's quieter than that. It happens when you stop needing to prove you were right or that they were wrong. It happens when you wake up one day and realize you've stopped replaying what could have been. That was me. I didn't hate her, didn't love her. I simply remembered her as someone who once mattered. And maybe that's the real ending to every story like ours. Not fireworks, not revenge, not grand gestures. Just two people who met, changed, and drifted apart. Sometimes love doesn't end with a fight. Sometimes it just runs out of reasons to stay.